My name is Paul Oliver. I'm the owner of Pinellas Power Products, and this is the installation instruction video for the extended runtime fuel kits for the single-phase open-frame generators that run the 999cc Ducar engine. The kit will include a flash drive with a copy of the video you're watching now, along with a copy of the demo video, a decal that you'll stick to the top of the fuel tank with the instructions for running it off the stock tank as well as running it off the remote tank. And incidentally, running it off the stock tank, you don't do anything special. You do it just like you did before you installed my fuel kit on it. I will be covering the instructions in the demo video. This video is strictly to explain how to install the kit. At any rate, let's go ahead and get started on it. It also has a quick pamphlet that explains to you that you bought the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're going to be shooting the video on the Powerhorse 27,000, which is just one of the several different generators that use the 999cc Ducar engine. The first step is going to be to locate the fuel selector valve. On the Powerhorse, it's right here. On the Westinghouse 20,000 watt, it's moved to about this position, but it all functions the same. If you look at the back of the fuel selector valve, you'll see that there are two hoses going to it. You may need the flashlight. Okay, one of the hoses goes to the fuel tank, and the other hose goes to the fuel pump. I've got a pump off over here so you can see it better, but you recognize the fuel pump. This would be the pulse line, this would be fuel in, and this would be fuel out. So what you're going to do first is remove the Corbin clamp from the hose that goes into the fuel pump. So that hose would go from the fuel selector valve to the fuel pump. To open up a Corbin clamp, you simply squeeze on the two tabs and slide the clamp up. We'll make sure that the fuel selector valve is in the off position so we don't get any gasoline dripping out, or we don't get a lot of gasoline dripping out. We're good. So I've just slid this hose off. Okay, included in the kit is a bag of small parts. And you'll take the T connector from the small parts and the section of 1/4 inch hose, and we're going to cut a section of hose 1 3/4 of an inch long. If you look, this hose that runs from the fuel selector valve to the pump already has a fuel filter in it too. So that'll help you identify which hose you're going to be using. So now we've slid this hose off of the pump. We're going to slide the 1 3/4 inch hose onto the fuel fitting. And then the other end of the 1 3/4 inch is going to be slid down onto the fuel pump that we just slid that stock hose off of. Okay. Then you'll take the original hose that used to go to the fuel pump, and we're going to slide it onto this hose barb on the T connector. And we'll move our Corbin clamp right into place. Included in the kit are a whole bunch of plastic fuel clamps, or fuel hose clamps. We're going to put one down here. on the fuel pump end. Put one up here by the T connector. So now you've got the last barb of the T connector pointing straight up. You'll take another section of hose, approximately 16 inches long. This one's 17, so we'll use this. The kits come with a fuel filter. So the stock fuel filter is set up to filter the fuel that comes out of the stock tank. Then it goes through the fuel selector valve, through the stock fuel filter. This fuel filter will be filtering the fuel that comes out of the remote tank. So make sure that you have the arrows on the filter pointing in the direction of the fuel flow. And that would be from the fitting that we're going to put here to the fuel pump. There's quite a bit of space up above the choke cable and the fuel selector valve and the ignition switch. And that's where we're going to be running this hose through. And here's the other end of the hose right here. We're going to take this end and we're going to slide it onto this hose barb of the T connector. And then we'll go ahead and put a fuel fit or a hose clamp on it. You want to make sure that the hose is routed in such a way that there are no sharp kinks in it. What I'm doing is reaching back here and finding the hose with my hand and grabbing it right where it passes behind this frame area. And I've marked that spot, which is right here. Because of the layout of the generator, there's quite a bit of room there. What I'm going to do is cut the hose there, and we're going to install the fuel filter. If you have trouble getting these barbs in, just take the dipstick out of the engine and just put a drop of oil. And once again, you'll see that the fuel is going to be flowing the direction of the arrow. And we'll put 2 more hose clamps. Incidentally, if the hose clamps start to get crooked, just squeeze them from the side and that'll straighten them up. We're going to install one of the fuel fittings right here, and what you'll do is you stick your finger back there and just feel around. There's a wiring harness that comes from the ignition switch and goes to the voltage regulator, which is bolted right behind this panel. So you want to feel around in there and know where those wires are. We're going to go ahead and mark with a center punch where we're going to drill a hole and that's where the fuel fitting is going to be mounted. Incidentally, the kit's going to come with two fuel fittings. One is going to go on the generator, and the other one's going to screw into your fuel tank. The one that goes on the generator, you're going to use the hose barb that comes with it and screw it on to the fuel fitting, and it's going to pinch on the mount panel here when you tighten it down. So let's go ahead and drill the hole that we got marked. Ultimately, we're going to drill the hole out big enough for the fuel fitting to go through it. Okay, that's really close. Instead of cutting it another size with the step drill, I'm just going to take a repairman's reamer and just barely open that up enough. When you're putting this on, this is a pipe thread, which is a tapered thread. So if this starts to bind up and get really tight when you're screwing it down on this piece of metal without actually binding into the metal, take the 1/2-inch flat washer that's included in the kit, put it on the fuel fitting, and then put it through, and that'll make the panel slightly thicker. So what we're going to do first, because no two fuel fittings are exactly the same size at the taper and the hose barb the same way. It's not intended to be used as a mount, but we're going to do it that way because this is a steel panel and it just lends itself so well to that. So first we're going to attempt it without the washer. And if it doesn't pinch down to where it holds it tightly, we'll take it apart, clean it up, and put the washer on it. Take the Teflon tape and wrap several layers around the thread. Be very careful when you're putting it over the thread that you don't overlap the end, as in like this, because then when you screw the hose barb on, it will shear off this little piece of nylon or Teflon tape, which, truth be known, that'll be caught in the filter, but it's just sloppy to do things like that, so we'll keep the tape back from the thread, and that way you don't have a piece of the tape in the filter. Ultimately, I'm going to want the fitting and the lock tab pointing downward. Okay, this one is tightening down real nice without the washer. But if yours was not tightening down, then you would go ahead and unscrew it and strip the Teflon tape off, put fresh Teflon tape on, and put it back in with the washer. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to feed this hose back through there and slide it onto the hose barb that we just put on the back of this, and then put a hose clamp on it. If you use the dipstick for the oil, don't forget to put the dipstick back in the generator. Otherwise you'll have oil splashing out of there. Start it. So now we're going to go ahead and put a hose clamp on this hose right here. And we're going to double check and make sure that the hose isn't pinched in any location. Okay, we're good there. I'm going to go ahead and lower the generator so that we can see the top of the fuel tank and find the most appropriate place to put the instruction decal. I actually don't like here, because if you're filling the gas tank up and you spill gasoline, it'll run across the decal and maybe deteriorate the decal prematurely. So I'm going to put it over here, kind of the opposite of where these are at. So now the decal has the remote tank operating instructions, along with the stop tank operating instructions, and a shameless advertisement for myself. The kit comes with several zip ties, and the zip ties are basically to tidy up the work area if you see something that you don't like where it's laying and you want to zip tie it up and out of place. It also has a fuel hose that you connect between the generator and the remote fuel tank, and I'll be showing that in the demonstration video. I'm going to go ahead and raise this back up and check all the routing of the hoses just to make sure that we don't have any problems, and if so, I'll be using the zip ties included in the kit to zip tie the hoses in a better way. Actually, this one looks really nice. I'm not going to need any zip ties used on this. At any rate, that completes the installation process for generators that use the 999cc Ducar engine, which would include the Powerhorse 27,000 watt and the Westinghouse 20,000 watt, and some others that I can't think of right now. But at any rate, that just about covers that, and I thank you for your time.